For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Today we have Kochery C Shibu sir with us, the author of Faith and the Beloved. Today's episode is a recorded interview which was already aired a month ago, and with the full consent of the author, we are uploading it here in a podcast format. For more details, check the description.
So today we are actually going live with author Kochery. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. There was some kind of network issues, I think.
Yeah, I'm hearing your voice.
Oh, I don't know. Actually, I think because a cyclone is coming and it will hit us by tonight, so maybe there is some network issues going on over there. Is it clear right now?
Yes,
So,
I know it's clear. Yes.
So I'm so honored to host you tonight because you were the first author whose book I ever reviewed back in 2018 for The Men in Dhauladhar. And it has been a long journey. Yes, because it was the first book and from there it started. I remember it was the first book that ever came to me. So it's like completing the entire cycle for me.
Sure,
So
always good
it's
to
a
hear.
pleasure and honor to meet you. And yes, so how are you doing?
I'm fine. Staying safe, staying live.
Mm-hmm. So I always had a question to ask you. I never got that opportunity to ask you. You were a naval officer, Indian Navy officer. And from there, you started your journey from a Navy officer to an author. How do you want to describe that journey?
So the journey starts even before I became a naval officer. It starts where author was there from school days.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just that I joined the National Defence Academy and became a career soldier.
Mm-hmm.
So as a career soldier, you do not get much time to write fiction. We have written a lot of writing, but mostly strategy, tactics, warfare, weapons, equipment.
Yes, exactly.
War gaming and a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have so much of that to do. You cannot write a fiction while you're serving.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do justice to your job.
Mm-hmm.
So the fiction writer had to stay dormant for almost 3 decades before I could start. So I could start writing only when I came outside, when you could actually spare the time and dedicate to writing.
Yeah.
So that's when I wrote the first book. It took me 4 years when I was working on a project.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Men and Dreams in the Dhauladhar.
Yes.
And this is the second book, which is Faith and the Beloved. And from the time I started writing, I've stopped reading fiction.
Oh, why?
That's a deliberate decision. I did not want that anything that I read should even unknowingly influence my writing.
Yes,
So from
it can
2009,
happen.
I've stopped reading fiction so that to establish a writing style which is completely mine. So when people read, they know it's Shibu. So second book, I'll write one more book before I get back to reading again.
Mm-hmm.
That is just to be sure. I mean, that's more of a kind of. It has got its pluses and minuses. So I used to read almost sometimes. So there was a stage in life when I used to read a book a day. So not reading is not a good thing, that I know. But you do a lot of research, background reading. But till I write one more book, I will continue like that. So I guess this is the second book. So the journey has been good so far. It's a very different kind of environment.
Yes, and also like you said that the naval books are mainly war games and the strategies, and I see, and most of the books I have came across written by the naval veterans are focused solely on 1971 war. There are books on that very much, but then we don't. lot of memoirs coming up. Do you have any plan to write about your own experience as a naval officer?
That will come a long way now. Right now, I'm focused on this. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have no intentions of kicking the bucket in the next decade at least. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe, or then writing memoirs is normally when you get a feeling that either you have done enough or you
Mm-hmm.
lived enough. It's one of these
Oh.
two.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not believe that nobody can ever say that you have done enough.
Yeah.
Lived enough, yes. There are many people at some stage that that's enough, but I don't look at it like that.
Mm.
No plans for writing memoirs, but I will
Mhm.
definitely write more books. That's it.
Yeah. So, your first book were based on the social structure and the dark side of inter-community, inter-caste marriages and what can lead to that. Not because marriages, like the relationships, how it's not taken in a very politely by the society. And then this book focuses on the terrorist organizations and how twisted the love stories can get and the darker aspects of a person. So, do you want to follow these social dilemmas in your future books?
I have not, the simple point will be that, the story is written without any particular bias towards an issue. But the background of our society as it exists,
Mm-hmm.
it's quite unpleasant in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
As like Pei say, that nobody likes the toxic behavior of a man in the society.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call, toxic
Masculinity.
toxic masculinity, toxic behavior of men. Even men don't like it, but then there are reality. There are men who are toxic and who behave stupidly. So it is a reality in a society, and which some of the readers have told me this. They find this kind of books very unpleasant, especially those who are used to, you're reading in the comfort of your drawing room and who restrict your horizons to being a WhatsApp warrior. So you don't really step out into the society and come across this. So you find it unpleasant that you don't like to believe that this exists.
Yeah.
So this is in book in many ways touches on the underbelly of the society in various aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So it is also to give a sensitized people to, let's say that what I call the evil of the caste system, which is even today in our Hindi heartland. It's still so dominant that it's even today. It's the 21st century. It's almost 75 years since we got independence, but we're still stuck in the same morals and same issues which Dr. Ambedkar said is not being addressed way back in 1931 when he had even fallen out of Gandhi. But it still continues.
Mm-hmm.
So much as we have tried to make some notional changes, so that this book also aspects one aspect of that society wherein they want to break free from that shackles of the caste system. So the book starts like that, a man who's trying to break free and he thinks he is, but he does it in a way that, which some of the people have done. They're just putting on a Genevo and trying to become a Genevo man. So even after 70, 80 years, when it comes to light, the society is unforgiving. They put back where you are.
Yeah.
So this is one aspect of life, and similarly, so the even though the book is fiction, the background is actually a slice of our society. Be it demonetization, what happened during that time, be it your terror attack of Mumbai, or be it how the LTT and the terror network affects ordinary people's life.
Yeah.
And also when societies get into this kind of clashes, how the terrorist organizations or even intelligence agencies can play havoc with your life, and how they even use. So one of the things I've done is, the people get into a lot of video games, and where new generation people, where you're playing in your, you're created a virtual world, you become a character. So those places also have been invaded by these people. So your any walk of life where you're living, so unless you take care, there's always a chance of you being, let's say, being targeted by this kind of, let's say, vicious groups, be it terror outfits, be it even intelligence agencies.
Yeah, like monitored, like being always monitored.
Is a very soft word. It's a soft word, but I'm talking about being abused, exploited and abused. Monitored is still a safe word. It's okay. That's a government job. They have to monitor what the people are up to. But when it's a question of abuse and let's say exploitation. So you as individuals need to know that when each, there's a saying, with great liberty or with great freedom comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
So as much as you take and enjoy your freedom and the gadgets that gives you that freedom, you have to take that much more caution.
Yeah.
And there is no, and it's a kind of thing which is changing over a period of time. So the people need to keep abreast of. Doesn't matter whether you're using an iPhone, whether you're using a laptop, whether you're using an Android phone, whether you're playing video games, whether you're going, let's say, role-playing games, whatever you're doing, if you're up to, there is always an element of the toxic masculinity or toxic terrorism or the exploitative elements of the society which come inside, and you should be careful. And especially so when we have such a diverse nation as ours, we're very vulnerable from various sections of people. So that care one needs to take.
Also, like you say that being abused, this reminded me of the book by Edward Snowden in his Permanent Record, where he talked that if government wants to access every information of yours every second, they can easily do it and you would never know. And that the privacy in this digital world is just a myth, and there is no such thing called privacy over here.
See, that is again, you are now going to the other extreme. See, the compulsions of the United States of America is not to be templated and read as compulsions of India. So, let's say, for example, that, the system of Aadhaar card, what we have brought into practice, which is one of the most brilliant things which was done by the Congress government, the previous UPA government. They did not follow it through for whatever reasons. Towards them, they kind of went slow on it. The same idea has been used. Now, if you see whether it's a phenomenal enabler. Everyone has got an identity. You want to know bank, you open a bank account, you want to travel, your proof. It all depends on this.
Yeah.
Now that means it has made a rural bank or banking system access to people. And whether you want to do direct transfer of gas money, today they are using the same thing to transfer money to farmers. Tomorrow they may transfer the electricity bill to people. So it has been a phenomenal enabler wherein you are using this for the benefit of the people. This is one side.
Yeah.
The same information can be used by you if you want to do racial profiling, you want to identify people, and you abuse it. Yes, it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So in our case, we have not reached that threshold wherein our infrastructure and the level of infrastructure, even the government offices, other than maybe few of the major offices in the state centers, if you go to the district and rural level, they don't even have the basic amenities to even do what you're talking.
Yeah.
So we as a nation have got a long way to go to So what I say to a lot of people is that it's like telling a guy who has eaten well and he has overeaten and he has become obese, and he tells a guy who's hungry that don't overeat, you'll become obese. No. Yes, so the man who's hungry wants food. You cannot ask him to control his food until you cross the threshold. So correct, to that extent that we are in that stage where we need to use that data and that whatever the plus side of that to move forward and not get tied back the benefits versus your, let's say, the abuses. The benefits are far ahead as of now in our society. We are not, they must have been there 100 years back where we are today. So you cannot correlate what they are saying to nation. I guess it has its relevance in the developed nation, which means basically Europe, America, Japan, Australia, China, maybe some of those places. But the rest of the places, not yet. We need to use it to move forward. That's what we need to do.
Yes, we are doing it because Aadhaar card, like you have said, got its lot of benefits, isn't it? It made the transaction very easier and smoother, and it's just you don't need to do that multiple document thing anymore. Coming back to the question about your book, are you working on any current project right now?
Okay, it's an author's mind. There are many books churning in the mind always at any given time. There are 2 or 3 books churning. So I have not started putting pen to paper yet. But yes, totally I have not formed up anything. But I will be working on a book maybe towards the end of the year. Start working on it towards the end of the year. Because it's quite an intense process. So it cannot just start like that.
So how is your writing process? Like, do you go through a very detailed flow chart and the flashcards method, or you let it your creative flow to work its way?
No, I follow what is called character sketching or character development kind of writing, wherein I keep sketching characters, irrespective of whether I'm writing or not. That's a regular ongoing thing.
Okay.
So for each book, so I'm in the process of doing that for the next book also. So you sketch characters, and when there are many ideas turning in your mind. Once you decide which one you want to do, then you look at your anvil of characters, pick out 5, 6 or 7 of them. Then pick out a key person who is going to be the leading protagonist, put him or her in position, then start writing. Of course, when you write a crime thriller, there is it's playing with time, event, people, geography, and correlation of all over a spectrum of space and time. So it does require some kind of a board, definitely. Because when you're writing also, you have to keep track of who is where at what time.
Yes.
Till everything becomes clear in your mind, and it does happen after you halfway through the book when everything falls into place. It's in your mind. You can see who is where at what time and where it needs to go. But still, you need a reference when you need to cross-check. And when you finish the book and when you start editing it, the editor will ask for it. Because he or she will know, so what's the timelines you have made, where are the contact points. So have you cross-checked? So let me cross-check. So that process goes on. So that is the detailing part, and that's a challenge and that's a beauty, both. Especially when you're writing a crime thriller. And I've adopted to write in a time style where it's not a linear narrative. So chapter 1 is in 21st century, chapter 2 is maybe 20 decades back, 20 years back.
Yes.
Chapter 3 maybe 30 years back, chapter 4 or so there is playing of time back and forth.
Yes.
That makes it even more challenging. So, and that's the beauty of that part also. And the first chapter kind of has a blueprint and clues to a discerning reader to pick up the clues as you move forward.
Yeah.
So if that they have not followed the first chapter enough, then as they move forward, they have to come back again. They miss something. How is it taking place? So I guess, but that part always goes through.
So while you're saying that that's a writing process, is there any particular reason to pick crime thriller as your genre, not the anything else, or something about the crime thriller that attracts you so much to write about it?
See, the first book that I wrote had it had 3 genres in it. It was a traditional classical style of writing about 1/3. It had a technical fiction part, which is about 1/3. And
Yes.
There was a thriller writing in the background about 1/3 part.
Yes.
That is a combination of the 3. So in this book, I have knocked off the technical fiction part mostly. I'm hardly in a technical fiction in this, excepting maybe a couple of pages about hydro projects in one part. Otherwise, it's basically a thriller. But again, if you find that a lot of the places I have used that what I call the descriptive style of writing, or some even call it documentary kind of writing, wherein you talk about a person, you talk about a background, history, etc. There's a lot of detailing, which I believe in. Because my way of writing is that there will be no character who does not have a past.
Yeah, exactly.
So all the main players, however, even if they're so you have everybody who has got a past and the present, and I leave the judgment to the readers to decide whether they like the character or they don't like the character. It's not like Hindi movies where hero has a past and villain doesn't. So people empathize with the hero, and you cannot empathize with the villain. So here the idea is to say that it's no black and white, it's all in shades of grey. So this is how it is. And crime thriller, of course, that is something which I have liked previously. So I thought, okay, I'll try this one, crime thriller. But it's again a crime thriller with a variation, because if you see, there is again a certain amount of classical style of writing which is there in this person all along the book. When each character comes background, a lot of discussions about what happens in IITs, IIMs, or in the in the advertisement world, in the terrorist world. So a lot of information, because I believe in anyone who reads my book, there should be some value addition to him or her. Because I don't believe there will be anyone who could have had that spectrum of wit of all that is written in the book. So definitely, I think that here she will be a little pleasantly surprised at so many things that you talked about. You may have heard of it, but it's getting into details of it, and then now it's saying, "Oh, okay, that's how it is."
Okay.
So
Yes, in
to
your
that extent,
first book, there was this about the in detailed analysis about the hydro projects, how it works, and how the situation over there performs, and how different it is, and most of us don't know about it. And you try to, in a way, educate the readers about it, which is otherwise not possible for us. And while you write about the technical part, it must take you like intense research, isn't it, to get all the facts correct? And do you have that in your mind, that risk of writing a wrong information, or maybe information that's not completely correct, or like half written? Do you ever face that issue while writing?
oh, never. See, that is a fundamental. That's actually. So there are times when I write this book. So in any book, there are at times you get stuck on one particular point, or maybe one sentence in the book. But it may take you maybe 20 days to finish that, because you're doing background research to be sure that what you're saying is. Let's say I'm talking about 1930s, the first chapter, where the book starts with somebody in the 1930s, and even in the 1930s. So then you have to go back to the research and then try to speak to people who have seen that time, or who know that first hand. Then if there is nobody's available, then you talk to people who have second hand. That means he has heard from his father or mother or grandfather or grandmother how things were. So a lot of research goes into that, and to be sure. And when you play with history, then there is always a thing about which history book you refer to.
Yeah.
Because history also, that the prism of history changes with time. So what was thought right in 60s is not accepted in 80s. Today people say no, the same event has got various prisms. But as an author, I don't believe in the prisms of others. You try to get to the facts, form your own opinion, and to what it is, and then put it forward. So that, yes, it is always a challenge when you get into details, that if you make mistakes, then it can be a bloomer. So then of course, if you are not confident of that, you should stick to love triangles. Don't get into all the details and go around a triangle and only talk about emotions and feelings without getting into details. Because the more you get into details, you have to be precise. There is a lot of research involved. There is a lot of research.
Talking about the love triangle and about the feelings and emotions, but then there's this risk of getting lost in the market when there is already a lot of, like, millions of books are written on that same topic, isn't it, about love triangles and emotions, and it's almost reached a saturation level, and to stand out among those books can be a very difficult task.
Maybe so, but then majority of the Indian English writing is mostly the love triangle or mythology rehab. These are two popular sectors.
Yes.
So where you understand Ramayana from Sita's point of view, Mahabharata from Gandhari's point of view. So I mean, because the story is known to people, so maybe it's easier for people to familiarize and do. So that's what I said. One of the reasons why the crime thrillers or this kind of serious writing in English requires serious research and a lot of time. The first book took me 4 years to write. This one took me 2 years to write. So it is not something which you can turn out like that, because for the same reason that you said, that when you write and when you say something, you have to be sure that what you're saying is right. Facts and figures have to be right. Interpretation, of course. There are many interpretations of the same facts, depending on what perspective people take. But in other ways, it's okay. That is what is done. Like here in this particular book, there's a reference to a $500 bill. Okay, now, if I were to ask you a question, that what is the relevance of a $500 bill in today's society?
Yeah.
So many people say it doesn't exist, so why are you talking about it? Because US government stopped making $500 bills, I think, in the 60s. They stopped printing of $500 bills. But then, because they've stopped printing, and those $500 bills which are in the black market, and the people who are dealing in dollars, they held on to it. So that is being used as, that traditional exchange method, where you tear a note into two, one guy gives one half, the other gives the other half. Because it's not in production, it's a rare commodity.
Yeah.
So those who are holding it are using it for, again, it is a practice in the wonder world where there are some of them who still use this kind of method, where there is no way that somebody else can duplicate or do duplicity, because that item is not available. It's a very,
Yeah.
it is not available in the market. It's not available in the last 4 decades, 5 decades.
Yeah.
So many things there. So when you write things like this, then you have to get into that. So when did $500 go out of circuit? How much is there still in circulation? How much could be there in the black market? So if
Yes.
someone does that, what is the reliability of the note? That note will be 50 years old. Can it still be done? So like that, each item that you write about. So when you're talking a crime thriller, or now if you talk about, there's a lot of discussion again about the 26/11 attack. It's an attack which was covered in the television.
Yes.
It's in the recent memory of many people. So when you write, and you have to give little more than what they have seen. Otherwise, so it's like that. So about demonetization, it's something which is in the very recent past again. But
Yes.
there are certain aspects of demonetization, how it has affected, let's say, the terrorist organization, how it has affected your enemy intelligence organization, because those are all things which are not discussed about, but which have happened. So like that. So a lot of times, a lot of research gets into when you do that kind of book. Before you put your final word, that part I accept with you. That you have to be sure what you're writing. Then only that people will start reading your book to know that it is well researched. Otherwise, it'll go to that that mush kind of writing.
Yeah, but also because you're putting so much of effort into it and so much of emotional attachment developed with own writing, how do you deal with the negative comments on Amazon or Goodreads? How do you take that part? And, positive compliments are very easy to take, isn't it? But the negative feedback sometimes tend to hurt us a lot. How do you deal with that thing?
Oh, I don't. As a matter of fact, I tell people, love my book, hate my book, don't ignore it. So I'm okay with both. If you like the book, I'm okay. To dislike the book also. Only thing, of course, I do dislike is if someone has not read the book and just write a comment, then of course. Sometimes there are odd cases where I feel that somebody has written without reading. You can make that out. Someone says that, okay, you are glorifying rape, I don't like you. You are, you yourself is a toxic man. Okay, that means I know that person has read it. I also know the subject. It's not there by mistake. There a certain aspect, because there are so many more things to it that we have adopted a legal system which has been taken from the British society. Now the British society, wherein they are almost 100% literate, and there is a certain level of maturity of the society for which this law and order system is made. So to give you an example, there was a story in the 1920s when the Maharaja of Patiala, his uncle wanted to be a judge in Patiala. So the Britishers said, you're not qualified, you're not a qualified judge. How can you be a judge?
Yeah.
He said, what is it that you want? They told him, you want that the legal system is to ensure that law and order takes place and there's no violence, no murder. He said, that I understand. So that I will get done. So leave that to me. So because he's the Maharaja's uncle, it's called Kochery Singh is his name.
Screen got frozen? Okay. Just a second, guys. Today my internet is very choppy. I can understand that. If you can hear me, just drop a comment that you can, yes or no, and it will be easier for me to track it. So the connection actually got
Yeah, I'm hearing you, yes.
Yes, we are back again.
Yeah. So I'm just telling, so this guy becomes a
About-
judge and So he becomes a judge, and the first case that came to him is, is a murder case wherein one lady is come that says her husband was murdered by four people in the field. So there are four accused. They've got a lawyer, and this lady comes, and he asks the lady what happened. He said, "These people, killed my husband for a property dispute."
Yeah.
So the lawyer who was standing in for the guy said, this is not correct, and he gave his legal explanation. So he said, "Okay, I understand that." So he said, "You don't know further explanation is required." He said, "Hang all this fight." So the lawyer said, "I am a lawyer." He said, "So what? You're partying with the criminal. You also should be armed." He had all five of them. You had all five of them armed. And that sent such terror message down the line that so long as you were there was not one case of murder in that particular region. And after that, and only that's, there's a saying in Hindi, "Khadak Singh ki khadakne se khadakte hain khidkiyan." It's after him. It's after him.
Oh.
So now our society has been used to such brute use of force. That's the only thing our guys understand.
Yeah.
If you tell them that rape is punishable by 7 years in jail, they care two hoots. So they if someone say they should be shot dead, I am in agreement. So these are issues which, it's got a very large span. The idea is to create a discussion and an awareness to people as to, you're looking at a legal framework. Just to look at it in the drawing room sense and say, Nirbhaya cases should not have happened. Yes, I also agree, it should not have happened.
Yeah.
Toxic male, toxic masculinity, it happened. But what do you do with it? So that is one case at least where they've done it right. So even though someone they say that underage and 16 was spared, I said, why? You should also not be spared.
No, he shouldn't be spared at all.
So now a lot of these kind of questions come up. So this was a deliberate effort that and second is that it is being done by somebody because of the vicious caste cycle which has kind of damaged his life. So there is a certain aspect. So that why does things come about? In the background of that one particular individual, there is the all pervasive caste problems of our country, which never ends. So his way of getting even is do something even more stupid. So it's like that. So when people give me negative comments, those who read and give, I'm okay with that. Perfectly okay. And it has to be like that. I do not believe that any book can be liked by all people. Should not be also. I mean, it's not a Bible or a Quran or a Bhagavad Gita that everybody has to like it.
Yeah.
Should not be. It's just a novel. So long as majority are liking it, I'm okay. And the second part is very often the serious critics. That means people who actually read and write very seriously. Yes, I always take it. I said okay. A discerning critic is as welcome as a, what you call a praising reader. Because it's not easy to be a very good discerning critic. Not easy.
Like recently I came across a book by William Dalton Warifels, and it's he's a very reputed historian, and he works so much on Oriental history. And his book, he wrote it when he was 22, and it was for me it was very much racist because there were portions where he mentioned that Turkish men are homosexual in nature because the women are ugly, and there are many other aspects of not understanding what religions are beyond Christianity. And then we see this entire mentality of someone who glorifies crusades and neglecting completely the violence that took place. And we see it that the author writes certain kind of problematic books, and then it's told that he was immature and he didn't understand all of this, that's why he wrote it. And then there's this rise of millennial readers who questions about each and every author's the author's personal life decisions, or maybe whatever they tweet on Twitters or whatever they post on Instagram, which may sound very problematic. And but their works are extremely appreciated, especially like J.K. Rowling situation. Did you hear about that? That she's very transphobic, and yet her Harry Potter books are considered to be one of the gems of literature. How do you think that an author's book should be separated from his works completely and not consider the person, or the creation and the creator should be considered as one single entity?
That is that's like the question is like this. See, finally, what you're reading is a book, and
Yes.
whatever is there in the book is the author. Every
Yes.
character is created by the author, and the interpretation of whatever he does is also created by the author. So the book needs to be evaluated in its entirety on a standalone perspective, unless you're attributing motive to writing a book. That means to say, let's say for example, Salman Rushdie, when he wrote that first book, Satanic Verses.
Yes.
Now people said that that he had done this in whatever reason that he had, but there is a large perception among many of the people that it was done to create controversy, to get publicity. There is no way of knowing this, whether it is true or not true. Okay, so this is one aspect. Or let's say there are some people who write books on controversial topics only to be for the controversy part of it. Unless you're attributing any such particular motive, or let's say someone says, no, I'll give you something, an example. Since you talked about the Western writing, someone says, if you read history, it says Alexander the Great. Now, if Alexander, all that he did was, he took an army and went around hacking and killing people all the way from Greece to India.
Yeah.
What he did is no different from Hannibal or Genghis Khan or Timur or any of those groups in our history.
Yes.
You don't call Genghis Khan the Great, you don't call Timur the Great, you don't call Hannibal the Great, you only call Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
So now, here comes an issue that, because we have a disadvantage, that because we are speaking the language of our education is in English, and a lot of the books that we read is English, and there is a perception which gets translated to you even if you are not willingly party to it. Like for example, someone says, Amerigo Vespucci discovered America in some year in 50 or something. There were 10 million Red Indians living in America. What is there to discover?
Yeah.
So what it says is America was the first one to raid America. That would have been the truth of the matter. Because they all went, raided, killed, hacked, and took over that whole country.
Yeah.
But when someone sees it discovered as if it didn't exist, or there was no human beings there, not true.
Yeah.
So there are so many of this, what you call sublime perceptions. This again, I keep telling about the people who have a perception of history. Let's say if I go back to any kind of historical event, there is always current events which would have influenced that. So I'll give you one more, let's say, example. Now you say forward, Jews were persecuted and killed by Hitler.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about how Jews were persecuted. But what is not talked about is that in 1917, all the Jews in the world got together and declared support for Britishers in the First World War. And this included the Jews who were German. Now, when they lost the First World War and they were humiliated, Hitler, when he came and said, here are the Jews of this nation who said in 1917 that, we will sign, we will support the Britishers. No, he convinced the whole country that they were traitors. And just this one act of Britishers of getting that support of the Jews cost, 4 million or 4.5 million people were killed.
Yeah.
It's something like, the 1962 war when China was attacking India. If, the communists in India say support China, you're not going to spare them. So, similarly, Britishers did the same thing to India in 1942 when the Azad Hind was, the Japanese army was, at the Indian borders near Burma. There was a fear that they may break into India. The Indian National Army was with them. The Congress decided that maybe it is time to break with the British and quit India the moment they started. So when they started Quit India movement, the Britishers called Muhammad Ali Jinnah and told him, okay boss, support us, we'll give you Pakistan. Now it was a war decision which they took, and how many million people have got killed?
And millions of people got disposed.
So that disposition, displaced, killed, all because of that political convenience of the British. But we don't talk about that. We don't blame the British for what they did. We only blame each other.
Yes.
So when you talk about the history of India, so there's so many aspects that when you talk about, so when Daniel William write or any one of the Englishes write about Indian history, responsible writing of Indian history has been an area of concern because It's only after independence we started writing, and our research, unfortunately, our people who do research and write, many of them are not up to the mark. So, excepting for Dr. Ishwari Prasad, which is what I go by, as far as Indian history is concerned, which I believe that guy has done possibly the most responsible job of writing Indian history, whatever could be done. But there is an issue in this. To say that because the Western authors, they have created a perception, lot of which is misleading.
Yes.
Facts, the brilliance of their part is facts and figures will be right.
Yes.
You cannot catch any of them on facts and figures, but a subtle manipulation of the interpretation. Unless you're a very discerning reader, you will not know.
Even like you have said, with Indian historians, we see a very blatant biasness of the writers, and they would support a particular section and almost demonize the rest of the sections, and that in a continuous process, if we keep on doing the same thing for generation and after generation, it somehow changes the entire thought process of the readers also, because it starts impacting, because historians have a very powerful weapon in their hand, and they change the entire course of history, and it's like what the truth got hidden behind multiple layers of biasness.
See, that is what I said. See, you can do this to some extent to the general public. But that is called, it is called selling a prism. Today, history has got a prism. If you go to NDTV, it's one prism. If you go to Republic, it's another prism. If you go to third television channel, it's a third prism. The same event.
Yeah.
They will have their own views of what they think is history. Or if you take a newspaper, between Times, Hindu, and whatever, the 2-3 newspapers, each one will have its own perspective on what was done. So, as students of history, that's one of the reasons also why I do bring in a perspective on history and a prism of history, and to the extent possible without any current biases coming into it. Because then that's the idea of making people see events for what they are. So it is like telling that it requires a lot of research. So that there are historians who say that you study on Sambhaji. He will tell you Sambhaji was this height, this broad, his shoe size was this. To the extent of level of detailing, then only they say okay. So they said, was he killed? Did somebody betray him? Or was he actually There's so many aspects of history, like Indian history. When you read, let's say there was a famous, the Battle of Talikota, where they say, the Krishnadevarayas were defeated by the Bijapur Sultan. What people do not realize at that time is the Bijapur Sultans had the Marathas fighting with them. It was not today's perspective of what you look at that place. At that point in time, some of the kings joined one side, some of the kings joined the other side. They fought. They happened to be on the winning side. So when Alauddin Khilji attacked, there's a movie there, that lady about that princess of
Padmavat.
Padmavat. So that in history, when Khilji actually attacked that place, 80% of his troops were Hindus.
Yes.
So today to take us, prism and say that they were there, they didn't know what they were doing. That's not correct. So events, what happened, and those were all warring kingdoms. India was like a Europe. It was not India in the sense that Punjab was one kingdom, Madras was another kingdom, or Chennai.
Yes, it was like fragments of different kingdoms.
It was like a European Union. So it's like, today if you take Andhra Pradesh, it's as big as Germany. There's no reason why you cannot have each state representing a country.
Yes.
So that's why I said, when you look at history, that's an area where you need to be careful. And today, enough information is available, and enough misinformation is also available.
Exactly.
So it's for the readers to. Again, it comes to a discerning reader who takes effort. It's not too difficult. You go to one point of view, will be pro one party, and second again the other extreme. Truth lies somewhere in between. So that's for you to decide where the truth lies. And that's a challenge, and that's
own intuition somewhere. Is own intuition and own rationality to understand what the truth is.
Of course, you should. I mean, that ability to discern what, that's a capability. That's what teachers are supposed to nurture in schools and colleges. The intellectual curiosity to go beyond textbook mugging. Textbook mugging, any gada can do, mugging about textbook.
Yeah.
But understanding what goes into it and using your mind to be a discerning reader, and that's where truly you mature. And that's what the aim of every student should be as you grow up in life. Because education is the longest process in your life. You spend in your whole life. By the time you take
almost like
engineer or a doctor,
yeah,
it's almost like 17, 18 years of your life.
17, 18 years.
There is nothing longer than that.
Yeah.
The longest process in your life of training your mind to come to that level where you can grow in life after that.
So here's a question by Study Hard Smart. Would it be beneficial if we understand what kind of historian we are studying, nationalist, Marxist, etc.?
No, that's what I said. What kind of historian that, okay, all of them have one perspective. That's why I said there are people who have written history dispassionately. That's why I quoted Dr. V. Prasad. There are people who look at history as a subject and not seen by the CPM's point of view or Congress's point of view or Janasang's point of view or Muslim League point of view. So if you read about Pakistan today, they never discuss about their partition history. So there's nothing to discuss. They're not even allowed to discuss in the country.
Oh.
They say that it's too painful, too many people lost their lives, a lot of suffering. We should not discuss it because they don't want to. So that it's unfortunate, but that is how it is. So again, today also there are enough material available. The only unfortunate part is that you say that I was taught in my school that my first battle of Panipat was 1526. Alexander invaded India and so and so year. If my history learning was just reduced to mugging up dates and figures, then of course it's a miscarriage of education. And if that student talks like that later on, then he's a moron. At least, okay, your teacher made a mistake and you correct it now. Try to learn something yourself. Why are you getting dragged in that? So that's a lot of the time today there is no excuse for people because anyone who has got access to electronic media, enough information is available and enough misinformation is also available. You have to apply your mind and get it out, whatever you want.
Also, before we wrap up the session, I wanted to ask you that what made you join Indian Navy and not the other two? Is there any particular reason behind joining a particular?
No. There is no particular reason.
Then why NDA? Like, why joining the armed forces?
See, unfortunately, the 71 war was still very recent when we all joined the Navy. We joined India in 78.
Okay. So like a fresh batch.
So the armed forces was those days we had in my batch four people who had left IIT to join the NDA. Who had joined the IIT and they said they would prefer to join the National Defence Academy than the IIT. Today that does not happen. Even an NIT student will not leave that to join the NDA. So that the prestige and the image of that the establishment at that time was very different from what it has come down to today, where there are so many more opportunities for students and people prefer, most of them they're very happy with the armed forces so long as they're happy to see somebody in the family to be there, but they don't want to be.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yes,
Tough
we understand
life,
that.
There's
a psychology that it's a very risky job to do. And also, like talking about 1971 war, that time Indian Navy proved its worth. I was reading this book by one of the Navy veterans, and he was saying that how Indian Navy wasn't given that much of importance till the war happened, and they proved it. And also with the help of Eastern Command, the entire thing was planned out, and borrowing the merchant ships, they went inside the Khulna, and then they had to prove their worth. And is that why that the Indian Navy performed victorious and proved themselves, made you join the service?
No, that was not a consideration at that point in time. Of course, it may have been later.
Mm-hmm.
No, that time we were just joining the National Defense Academy.
Uh-huh.
It was like today when someone joins IAS, do you decide what happened, which arm of the IAS you're getting into, and where you're going to end up, which state you're going to select.
Yeah.
So, let's say we ask you tomorrow, you will crack the IAS. Now,
Mm-hmm.
can you say that you joined the IAS only because you want to join West Bengal cadre?
Nah.
So, we'll say no. If I were to ask you today, which cadre do you want to join? Do you have an answer?
No, I think I have a very a vague answer. I want to join the Maharashtra cadre for some reason.
The Maharashtra cadre. But I'll tell you why
Yeah.
not Kerala. Maybe
Kerala
when
is
you go
also
to
good.
IAS,
But the Kerala is as a language barrier will be always there.
so what?
But
So the
like
question is
in,
this, the question is when you join the IAS, as
Yeah.
from outside, it's about getting inside. Let's say tomorrow
Getting
you join
inside.
the IAS.
That's
When you
true.
crack the IAS, by the time you reach spend 6 months, you'll change your views on what you
Ah.
should be doing. You'll say,
Mhm.
no, I want to go to Bihar. Because it depends on what people want to do. So many of the people who look at where you can make a difference, where
Yeah.
the states permit you to function, where you get maximum scope of functioning. Many people opt for that.
functioning. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there are others who say that I want to just make money.
Yeah.
There's some who say, so I want to go to Bihar, UP, or one of those corrupt states where it's easy to
No.
join with the politicians and make money on the side. So
Mhm.
these are not. But when you're writing for IAS, is that a consideration?
No,
You
it
know
doesn't
that
consider
the-
it like to do the service. Rest are like the ancillaries. They
No, so
doesn't
that's
matter.
Correct. No. So when you join, when you crack the IAS, when you join, you want that we believe that it is still, and it is. I must thank the IAS that this country is in one piece. Otherwise, left to the politicians, they would have sold it out by now.
Yeah.
It is a framework which holds the country together, even today.
Uh-huh.
With
Yes.
all complaints. So it is a framework, and they are the people who run the show.
Mhm.
And anyone who is upright and honest and intelligently goes about it, it's phenomenal scope for achieving self-actualization or being happy that you are able to make a difference in society, not by begging and borrowing, but by just doing your job the way it's supposed to be
Yeah.
done. So that's what I said. Now, if I had to ask you a question, today you think it's Maharashtra cadre. Maybe 6 months into IAS Academy, it may change your view.
Yeah.
May
It
offer
was
some other state. But okay.
so it changes with time because our perception also start changing, and there are much more priorities comes up.
They do. But anyway, all the
And-
best. When is your next exam? When is your prelim?
Prelims got shifted to October.
October. Well, focus.
Date
We'd
not
like to,
announced.
we should crack it.
I have to do it because everything is at stake right now.
Okay.
Otherwise, the next option, like there's like a do or die situation. Either you crack the exam or you get fired. There's and in that I choose to study.
Go ahead. All the best. Then.
So thank you so much for joining with us, and I was so excited to host this session because you're not just the author, and this is the first time I'm actually hosting with a naval officer. So it's a great honor for me to do it. And best of luck for your book, and stay safe.
Thank you so much. All the best to the viewers and the readers also. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this episode, and if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to buy the book Faith and the Beloved. Thank you.